I'm from Kenya, and in March of this year, the Kenyan citizens elected Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, two individuals indicted by the International Criminal Court. On the issue of national honor, legitimacy, the ICC is being questioned across the continent as an extension of neo-colonial Europe and America engaging with the continent in a way that's delegitimizing the choices of the people on the continent. I'm wondering what you think about this situation that we're facing, where head of state and his deputy, who are accused of presiding over crimes against humanity in 2007 and 2008, are facing the prospect of being, brought to The Hague to face justice.
I think part of the difficulty with a lot of the global dialogue about these sorts of things is that many people in the world feel, and unfortunately they are correct in thinking, that they aren't being addressed by people who regard them as equals. They're not being addressed in a way that's respectful and as fundamentally rooted in the sense of their equality, as their moral equality as fellow human beings. And so the fundamental precondition for the success of this kind of engagement is not there. And so in those circumstances, when somebody criticizes you, your natural instinctual response is, well, you would say that, right? I mean, you don't care about us anyway, so of course you have a dim view of what we're doing. And so these kinds of interventions, even if the particular people at the ICC who brought the particular indictment did so on the basis of sort of narrow legal consideration of actual evidence, which I think is a fair way to describe what they did, the background conditions are not ones in which this kind of cross-cultural intervention is likely to be successful. And so the president is in a position where he's able to mobilize nationalist sentiment, and in fact Pan-African nationalist sentiment across the continent against this institution. A lot of the people, for example, who criticize Uhuru Kenyatta have no idea about anything in Kenya except that they disapprove of the behavior of the current president, and they're not entirely sure what he did, but the ICC has said he's done something bad. So, in other words, they haven't taken the trouble. Many of the critics don't take the trouble to do the kind of respectful understanding of the situation in the society where you're criticizing someone. That is the absolutely basic precondition for criticism being something that the people you're criticizing ought to take seriously, let alone that they psychologically are likely to take seriously. And this is an example of, I think, probably an instance of a problem whose largest version is the difficulty in relations, I think, between what I don't like these terms, but I'm going to use them for shorthand, between the West and the world, the Dar al-Islam, the world of Muslim people. Because again, there is a legitimate feeling among people in Muslim societies from Morocco to Indonesia that that most of the people in the West who criticize things that goes on those places don't actually care about Muslims at all, and in fact have a kind of contempt for Islam, which shows up in the fact that they say idiotic things about Muslims and about Islam, things that show they haven't the first idea about the thing they're criticizing. And that kind of ignorant and disrespectful criticism just isn't the basis of a relationship which can make these mechanisms that I'm talking about work. So I would say what's needed in the world today is a lot less criticism and a lot more of the kind of respectful engagement, trying to understand, get along with one another, talking about things, not just about the things we disagree about, but also about some of the things we agree about, building the relationships across societies. And this is something that can be done at a civil society level, but also needs to go on intergovernmentally. And against that background, when you know that the person criticizing you is someone like Reverend Richard, who loves China, right? You feel differently about his criticisms. It cannot be said about most of the people criticizing Uhuru Kenyatta that they love Kenya, unfortunately.